The world has been captivated by the grandeur of ancient Egypt for several centuries. This civilization, which existed for thousands of years, seems to reach out to us through the sands of time, inviting us to unravel its mysteries. How did the ancient Egyptians live? What secrets are hidden behind the massive blocks, pyramids? These questions, like magnets, attract the minds of scientists, historians, and simply lovers of mysticism. The uniqueness of ancient Egypt lies not only in its incredible achievements, but also in the aura of mystery that surrounds every facet of it. Even in ancient times, the figures of Egyptian pharaohs inspired other peoples. The Greeks, known for their passion for cultural borrowing, not only admired Egyptian culture, but also sought to imitate its symbols. Authorities: Alexander the Great, after conquering Egypt in the 4th century BC, took the title of pharaoh, emphasizing his claim to the throne, and founded the famous Alexandria, which would become the future intellectual center of the ancient world. The Greeks adapted Egyptian deities, such as Isis, into their religion, and Egyptian aesthetics permeated their architecture and art. The Romans went even further, turning Kazakhstan into Kazakhstan. Obelisks and relics from the Nile Valley became symbols of their power. Hundreds of obelisks were transported to Rome and other cities of the empire, adorning squares and temples. Even today, obelisks brought from Egypt adorn famous European cities. These are unique reminders of the ancient connection between cultures. But the real wave of interest in ancient Egypt swept over Europe in 1798, when Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Egyptian lands. Along with his army, he brought a group of scholars and engineers known as the Scientific Expedition. These researchers studied the architecture, writing, and daily life of the ancient Egyptians, creating a detailed description of their culture. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which allowed for the deciphering of Egyptian hieroglyphs, was a turning point in understanding the civilization. Soon, the era of Egyptomania began. Inspired by the discoveries, Europeans began to buy up mummies and artifacts en masse, hosting mummy parties where they would unwrap the bandages from the remains right before the astonished audience's eyes. Artists and architects drew inspiration from ancient Egyptian motifs, creating stylized decorations, interiors, and even clothing. The Napoleonic expedition awakened in Europe a thirst to unravel the mysteries of Egypt, turning it into a symbol of greatness and mystique that still stirs minds today. Wealthy Europeans of the late 18th and 19th centuries were literally swept up in Egyptomania. Ancient Egypt became not only a subject of scientific interest, but also a kind of fashion among the upper class. Back then, mummies were seen not as sacred remains, but rather as exotic trophies. They were brought from Egypt in huge quantities, and they were sold at auctions or to private collectors. However, few limited themselves to just buying. The so-called mummy parties became a kind of entertainment. During these events, the hosts unwound the bandages from the bodies of ancient Egyptians right before the astonished audience, as if opening a door to the past for their guests. Such events were often accompanied by discussions of mystical stories and even rumors about the curses of the pharaohs, which added to the intrigue. Archaeological expeditions funded by wealthy patrons and kings became another important step in the study of ancient Egypt. The funding for these expeditions was generous, allowing scientists to explore not only the pyramids and temples, but also the tombs hidden beneath layers of sand. Each new artifact or discovery sparked excitement and amazement. Among other things, papyri with texts were discovered that no one had been able to understand for centuries. It was only with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone and the subsequent deciphering of hieroglyphs that a new era in understanding the history of ancient Egypt began. A huge contribution also came from the discoveries of structures that had been hidden under the sand dunes for centuries. Giant temples, magnificent tombs with colorful frescoes and mysterious sphinxes. As if they came to life, telling their stories, each artifact found added new chapters to the history of this ancient civilization, but at the same time gave rise to new questions. For example, How did the Egyptians manage to build such complex structures, considering the level of technology at that time? Or why did certain texts remain deliberately encrypted? Among the many mysteries of Egypt, the famous pyramids stand out. The majestic structures built thousands of years ago are still a source of admiration and endless debate. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the existing monuments, is built from millions of stone blocks, each weighing up to 16 tons. It's amazing that many of these blocks were quarried in Aswan, which is more than 800 kilometers away from Giza. How did the ancient builders manage to transport them such a distance? This question remains one of the greatest mysteries in history. One of the most plausible theories is that the stone blocks were moved on giant sleds sliding over wet sand. A detailed depiction was found in the tomb of Jehutihotep, where men are dragging a huge statue, and in front of them, a man is pouring water. However, moving them is just part of the task. How did they lift the blocks to a height of over 140 meters? Archaeologists suggest that the builders used ramps, but what exactly they looked like is still unclear. Some believe that they were straight slopes, while others talk about complex spiral structures. However, the question of why the Egyptians abandoned the construction of pyramids is interesting. The answer may lie in a change in religious beliefs. When the capital was moved from Memphis to Thebes, the area around the new center proved unsuitable for the construction of such large-scale structures. Instead, they began carving tombs into the rocks. This method proved to be more practical, as it protected the burial from looters. Moreover, engineer Peter James has hypothesized that the pyramids suffered from deformation. He found that the limestone blocks shifted over time, destroying the structure. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why the Egyptians began to look for other ways to immortalize their pharaohs. Today's science provides new tools for studying ancient structures. Using modern scanning methods, hidden cavities have been discovered in the Great Pyramid of Khufu. In the northern part of the pyramid, a small chamber measuring about 1 meter in length has been found. Scientists believe that this is a corridor leading to the burial chambers. And above the famous Grand Gallery, a mysterious void over 30 meters long has been found. What is it? It could be a hidden room with treasures or a second unused burial chamber. For now, these are just hypotheses. Every discovery related to the pyramids not only provides answers, but also raises new questions. Ancient Egypt continues to amaze us. Its mysteries are a reminder of how much we still don't know about our ancestors. Perhaps one day scientists will find a way to finally unravel these mysteries. But for now, the pyramids of Giza, they remain a great symbol of human genius and the unfathomability of the past.